Hello and welcome to my new office, studio, whatever you want to call it. This is the new setup. I'm hoping that this will be kind of the final setup for a while. I mean, things will change with the setup, but this is pretty awesome to have a new space to work with. And now I can start to really focus on making videos and the shorts and all that stuff. With today's video, though, I want to dive into a topic that I already discussed with Bailey on the podcast way back in the first few episodes. I don't know, it was like episode 3 or 4, where we talked about opening sealed stuff. Now, I may come off as a little biased on this topic, but the whole point of this video is going to be reasons to open and reasons not to open. And it's not just gas mask tins, filters, stuff like that. It can be stuff like insulated canteen in a box. I mean, this is just a canteen in a box with some tape on a cardboard box. There's nothing really sealed about it. And it's something that I think stretches past the military hobby as a whole. So even if you collect old computer parts, action figures, you name it, a collectible item that comes sealed, um, there might be a good reason to open it. There might be a good reason to not open it. And, that's the whole point of this video. So before I get into the meat of the video, I have opened stuff in the past, so I'm not coming from a high horse. This is not supposed to be a attack on anyone. This is just my opinions, and I could be wrong on things, and if I am, I am. I'm happy to be wrong in the sense that I'm good with learning. So that's just something to put out there. I don't want anyone to feel like this is an attack on people. This video does have some potential to be that because of just the nature of this conversation, because some people get very heated about it. And I totally understand both sides of the argument to get heated. So with that said, we'll jump into the reasons to open a mask or a bin or something, anything. All right, so with the reasons, I'm not going in any particular order. I'm not really listing these off. It's kind of just going to be a big blob of information, but because it all kind of plays on itself. Reasons to open anything really for that matter is the first obvious is outside forces. You found a gas mask tin that is rusted out. You found a gas mask tin that was stored in a moist place. So you have pitting, you have rust, you have something that's kind of compromised from the outside in on whatever, the mask in this case, or anything for that matter. Or if you have this is a brand new filter, it's composite C2A1. I think this is Airboss. But say there was a slit on this, and the vacuum seal was compromised. Might as well open it. It's already been exposed. Not really a big deal. That's going to happen. So outside forces definitely are I would say outside forces are the primary reason to open something when you get it in, because it's already been compromised and there's already something active on it. Now, obviously, with things like compression bandages, or this specific compression bandage, it's not really sealed. There's no obvious tape on this, but it's just a little cardboard box with a compression bandage in it. Not much going on here. So opening this and putting it back, not that big of a deal. So this is, at the end of the day, all of this comes down to best common sense that you can get, best judgment on opening things and not opening things. That being said, along with outside forces is inside forces. Now, things acting upon it from the inside that might cause it to have problems. A good example is like an RCI or MCI ration, where you have things in a can, they're now under pressure, botulism has taken set, the can starts to bulge. There's a potential chance of that can exploding. And I mean, if you've ever watched Steve, who I'm a huge fan of, you'll see that happened a lot. Where most of the ration is completely edible, completely fine, but like a strawberry jam or some sort of meat has exploded on the inside and has coated everything and just ruined, particularly or things that could be actually edible, or at least sort of edible. I mean, depends on your definition of edible, but and just destroyed it. So that's a good enough. That's right there is a good enough reason to open something. And I also think of if you're collecting electronics, again, going to a different hobby, old capacitors, old batteries, they can pop. I know like capacitors definitely. I forget the exact capacitor era, but like the 90s, I'm pretty sure had issues. If there's issues with manufacture of capacitors, they have a tendency to go. So that's another good, very good reason to open something. And again, I think that those two outside inside forces are going to be your general like big time reasons to open something because again, if the packaging is compromised or the thing inside of it, it will become compromised, you might as well open it, get it out. You can identify the problem, um, and there you have it. You know, instead of just letting it rot inside of it. On top of those two things, I will say opening something to document, preserve, or really just document, photograph, video, whatever you're going to do, kind of like Steve does with the rations, I think is also a worthy reason to open something. And I think that that's, you know, as long as you do it really well and you know and you take it to that next level, and again anyone can do it. Doesn't have to be someone with ridiculous number of subs or something. Anyone can do it. Anyone can document anything. That's the greatest part about history, is that we all can be, you know, great stewards of history and taking care of and preserving pieces of history. The last good reason I can think of off the top of my head when I was coming up with this video is commonality of the item, whether or not it, or the simplicity of the item. If it's something simple like um, a harness or a strap that's comes new old stock or something like that, or a uniform that's coming new old stock. Um, I don't that's a judgment call, but generally speaking, that's something that you definitely can just take out of it. You know, a lot of times, and if it comes in plastic, it gets less so important if it comes in just very thin plastic. Um, you're not really at that point. It's not if it's not vacuum sealed or hermetically sealed, there's less of an argument. I mean, the canteen, I'll bring it back up again. Insulated canteen. I'm not going to probably open this because you can get them open on eBay pretty cheap. I'm just going to leave it sealed. It's kind of a cool thing to have sealed. It's nothing amazing. It's not a rare item technically. I mean, it's just one of those things that, you know, uh, it's not a big deal though if you open something like that, especially because it is just a box with tape on it. It's not hermetically or vacuum sealed or something like that. So I think rarity is also on the not reason to open things. And we'll get to that in that side of things. But I think if it's a simple item or if it's a common item, it's not that big of a deal. I don't see it as end of the world scenario. I generally side on the keep things closed if possible and buy an open item. But again, it you do what you got to do, and it's not the end of the world. But that's pretty much from my from what I was able to like gather for myself and asking a few other people. That's what I got for reasons to not, or yeah, to not open, reasons or reason to open. Now let's move on to reasons to not open. All right, so I'm going to start off with reasons to not open, like pretty much right off the bat with the reasons to open right at the end there. If it's the opposite of common and it's a more rare item, for instance, if it's this is a right-handed, but if it was a left-handed M9 in a tin, they only made so many of those. Like I think it was like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 300,000. I don't know how many M9s off the top of my head. I keep forgetting to check that number. I think it's in like the 3 million range. So that's probably 1 in 10 were left-handed, which means that on the market there's going to be even less left-handed tins that aren't open. Therefore, you probably shouldn't open those. Rarity definitely plays into it. Now, something that comes up often is people will say, well, they made, say, 3 million. Say I'm right about that number. Fact check me. I can't remember. Well, you got to think that's 3 million that they made total that were used, that were open, so forth. So you're getting that number is trickling down as you go. The more they're opened, the more rare they become. They increase its rarity as they decrease in sealed condition. And I will use the Mosin Nagant or the SKS rifle example um, to point out what happens and how quickly it can happen. When I was in high school, Mosin Nagants, for instance, you could get them for $60, $70 at a store, like at a box store at the time that would sell firearms. And then within a few years, you're talking $100. And now you're talking, and this is for decent quality Mosin, you know, matching parts. Yeah, terrible import marks on it, but whatever. But it was matching parts at least. You had matching serial numbers. and it was dipped in cosmoline. But back then, you can get crates of Mosins for cheap, and you jump 10 years. I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at the price of Mosins right now, but I'm assuming it's probably in the 3 to 5, maybe $600 range for a decent quality Mosin. That's not a complete garbage rod. So that's a good example. SKSs are also a great example. It's one of those things that I wish I would have got an SKS 10 years ago because they were so cheap, and now they're not. So I think there's a good example of why eventually M9s they're already going for quite a bit on eBay as is, and that's not just gouging prices. They are slowly going up in price. And although there will still be people that will find like whole crates of these things and put them out there, I mean, how often do you see an M9 in a cardboard box? Which I do have. They're very not common. So that will eventually happen with M9 tins. And this M1A1 tin, service mask and tin. This is also not going to be. These aren't as common as these are, and they're becoming less and less common. But like if you're talking like again, I have like 20 of these because I got it in a deal. I don't have any purpose for them. They're in date. They haven't expired yet. Opening one of these, big whoop. Um, Same thing with a C2 in an original tin. This is just a C2A1 actually, but same thing. I mean, I'm not going to open it because I don't have a reason to. I have plenty of C2A1s open, but again, not the biggest deal. For every mask, how many filters they make? So you can do the math, and it starts getting out there. Um, but it's something to consider when opening these, and that goes right into again all the not reasons are just the flip verse of the reasons. So the first thing is outside forces. The minute you open it, now you're applying outside forces on the object. So again, M9s, we know what happens to M9s when they've been out for so long. They become green to the point where it almost looks like they're supposed to be green. That's what happens. So, the more you open, it's not gonna happen more than likely in the tin. And again, the tin is gonna keep that mask. That tin's gonna last longer. The mask in the tin is gonna last longer than I am. And I can say that because it's been 60 years since this specific tin was retinned because it was opened, inspected and then resealed. This one is, again, 60 years. It's older than me by double. And I guarantee you from other people opening them, it's going to open up fine. So in another 60 years, it's probably going to be fine. The only questionable thing is the ink they used on some of the newspaper they would pack these things with. It's the only thing I can think of on the inside that might react with something. But the mask is in its carrier with its face form. It's wrapped with the twine there. So I don't know. That's again, come back in 60 years and tell me I probably won't be here. But you know, some of the younger guys might actually be here in 60 years. You can find out for yourself. Um, so I think outside forces, you're now applying air, you're now applying moisture. Most people who collect, including myself, we do not have complete environmental control on the room that our collection is sitting in. I mean, I do my best to keep it at a specific temperature, keep the humidity down, but there's going to be days it's not going to be possible. So, and that, again, that kind of goes into maintenance and care for these things and preservation and whatnot. But it's important to think of. If you are going to open it, that's something to keep in mind. And again, we as collectors probably should start getting used to wearing cotton gloves because the oils in your fingers will degrade everything. The last reason not to open, and this kind of goes into the if it's possible realm. If you can get an open condition, but good condition, whatever, off eBay or wherever you're buying it in a surplus store, so forth. You're better off doing that and then keeping it sealed. Um, I have like a left-handed M9 that you won't be able to see because I'm in the way behind me. Looks brand new, basically. Doesn't have any weird tinge or anything like that going on. If you're better off doing that than just opening something. Because that already has been exposed. So you putting your face on it, for instance, isn't going to be that big of a deal. Or you touching it with your hands, not a big deal. But yeah, that's pretty much the reasons to not open. I mean, getting into the more controversial side of it, and this is kind of towards the end. This is the end of the video, basically, but I'm going to ramble for a couple minutes. With consideration of this, I know the argument, it's my money, I should be able to do what I want with it. I'm not arguing with you on that. You should be able to do whatever you want with the money you spend. That does not mean though that you are null and void for you. You don't have to hear criticism about you opening something. If somebody had the money to buy the Mona Lisa, and this is a hyperbolic example, I know, but this has happened, not the Mona Lisa, but this happened with priceless art, and you destroyed it, people aren't gonna be happy about it, right? So it's, and even though if you had the money and you spent how much money you had to spend to get a priceless piece of art and then burn it, people are still gonna be happy with it. They're gonna think you're not a cool person. So to be good stewards of preservation of history, we have to take that in consideration. Again, I'm not saying bend to people's to pressure people. I'm not saying bend to peer pressure, I guess, but you know, that's something to consider is not destroying something just because you can. It's not a good reason. It's an immature reason, if anything. And again, if you're doing it out of, this is where I get a little bit more controversial. If you're doing it out of spite, again, it doesn't hurt me. I have my M9s, I have my tins, I have my stuff. It doesn't hurt me. It just makes you come off as immature. You should do some self-reflection. And again, this is not targeted at anyone, but I see it across the community. I see it in all the different hobbies that have this. You don't need, you shouldn't be doing this out of spite. It's not a good thing to be doing. It's not good for you. It's not good for the community. And again, you do what you want to do. But all I'm saying is you should probably do some self-reflection. I'm not your parent. I'm not your guardian. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But if that's your reasoning for doing it, you might want to check yourself. Just because, again, does it affect me? No, it doesn't. At the end of the day, I don't care. You can open as many things as you want. I'm an adult. I have more important things to worry about than someone opening something. But am I going to be disappointed? And I find out, yeah, I'll be disappointed. I'm always disappointed when I see something. I want the best for the community. I want the best for everyone. I don't like the little squabbling. I don't like the drama. I don't like the drama at all. I don't like all these little rings and clicks and all that stuff forming. Not a fan. Never was a fan of it. Didn't like it in high school. Don't like it now. We all get older, but we all still stay like, we act like we're still in high school. But that being said, if you like this style of video where I just ramble in front of the camera, tell me, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment, either agreeing or disagreeing, I'll get to it. And until if I'll figure out another thing to talk about, I'm going to keep working on the shorts. I'm going to keep working on just, I have a ton, I have just an infinite number of video ideas. And now that I have the space to do it, other than the fact that I still work a full-time job, I will dedicate as much time as I can to making videos and content. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. And until the next time, I don't know, have a good time.